What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and since I have a bit of time today, because storms have canceled all of my other work that I have to do, I have some time to catch up on some shows. So, this is Timeless, Season 1, Episode 13 from last week, Karma Chameleon, and I like the idea behind this, but I think the execution fell just a little bit flat. It wasn't a bad episode, it just the possibilities running through my mind right now, I think got me so hyped about how this was going to end that how it did actually end was a little bit of a disappointment. And what I mean by that, and I'll go ahead and start off just talking about the general concept before I go into details, is Wyatt and Rufus take not the mothership. What's it called? I forget the name of the thing they take now. Oh, the lifeboat. That's right. I'm sorry. The mothership, the lifeboat, the wave rider, so many time travel things. Anyway, but they take the lifeboat and they go back to the time where Wyatt's wife's killer's parents are, and they're about to hook up. And apparently it's just this woman who was trapped by a storm in this bar, and then the bartender, I guess, hit on her, and then they hit it off, and they decided to have just a one-night stand, and then she got pregnant. That became the baby that eventually became serial killer who killed Wyatt's wife, or so we thought. And that's the idea that I was playing with throughout this entire episode. Like, okay, so if this is indeed, in fact, the guy who killed Wyatt's wife, because the way he said it made it sound like he just wanted to take credit for it, even though he didn't. And I was worried that was how they were going to do it, and sure enough, that's how they did it. But I was just thinking this whole episode, like, okay, so what if he ends up stopping that guy from being born? That guy doesn't kill his wife. What type of future does he, or what type of present does he return to? Because that's just all I could think about. I was like, okay, so what's it gonna be like? When he gets back, what if there's a whole new team because his wife never died, so there's no reason for him to join the team in the first place? So they're gonna be like, who are you? And that's the thing. Once he got back, he was looking straight at Lucy and was like, tell me about Jessica. And the look on her face told me she knew what was going on. And all I could think is, see, what if he had returned to a time whenever his wife wasn't dead? Why would Lucy even know what he's talking about? Like, what could happen if he did change that? If he comes back and his wife is alive? Like, what type of present would that be? Would he even be involved in Lucy or Rufus's life? Obviously, I'm starting to figure out that the people in the lifeboat or in the mothership, whoever travels back in time, they return, and I feel like they're kind of outside of time when all of this happens. So, like, when they returned, Lucy is the only one who remembers her sister because, I guess, traveling through time kind of nullifies the effects on you, which kind of makes me wonder if their parents died while they were back in time or while they were in the time ship. Like, I wonder if they would still be around because of that. Anyway, I don't know, just little theories. But it's theories like that that make me want them to take chances. To take chances like that and say, you know what, let's have him succeed in saving his wife. Let's see what that would do to the timeline. How would that change our story right now? So, yeah, I was a little bit disappointed by that, but ultimately we still got a good episode. It's still enjoyable. It's still fun to watch. A lot of the stuff going on inside the bar is just, it's almost like you're going in and Wyatt's going in thinking he knows everything that's about to happen, and then as stuff starts happening, you start to realize he doesn't really know what's going on anymore. Like, he doesn't know the details of everything going on, like the storm trapping them in there, the cop showing up and them helping the cop, working together to fix the cop's arm. Now, I will say that in all of this, these have to be two of the horniest people in the world because, I mean, it makes sense in the previous timeline before Wyatt shows up and all of that stuff. It makes sense that they sort of hit it off because it seems like they would have been talking the whole night away. But in this timeline, now that Wyatt stepped in and changed it and he and Claire started hitting it off a little bit, it seems like they didn't really have a whole lot of time to talk, and yet a few minutes after Wyatt is found out as being like kind of, like, I don't know what they think of him now that her friend was like, no, he was asking about you. Oh, no, he just met me. After that scene happens and the guy steps in, the bartender steps in, and moves Wyatt out of the way. It feels like just a few minutes later, we cut to they're all watching the TV at the bar, and she's got his hands on his arm, like, on the bartender's arm, like she's in love with him all of a sudden. I'm like, see, how does this happen? It would make sense if she kind of ignored Wyatt the whole night. He was trying to step in and trying to be suave and talk her away from the bartender. But the thing is, he actually did it. It wasn't like she ignored him and went to the bartender instead. She was talking to him most of the night, and yet it still feels like somehow she's still falling for this bartender, and they still go into her room and try to have sex. I'm just like, how does that work? What did they talk about? Why did they hit it off so well that they didn't even need the whole night anymore? Now they just needed like a few moments together and just like, we're gonna have sex tonight. How? I wish they had showed us a bit more of that. I wish they had showed us how, if they just connected that well. But ultimately, it leads to a pretty intense moment where we see Wyatt is pretty much at the edge of his sanity. He's locked up by the officer that was there because he was carrying a gun with no permit. And so Rufus comes in to help him out. Wyatt knocks the cop out, gets the handcuffs off, takes his gun back, and goes to the room where they're staying. And so he goes in there, threatens both of them with a gun, takes the bartender outside, and the bartender manages to get away during the storm. Doesn't look where he's going, trips over something, over a car, bashes the back of his head on a little parking, what's it called? Like a parking block. And so he's dead now. And so that's pretty much the end of that story. They come back, and the two women that the serial killer did kill before are now alive. But the rest of it is changed. Or unchanged. I mean, Wyatt's wife still died during that night. And it kind of does make me wonder if we're going to find out that somebody from Rittenhouse was actually responsible for his wife's death. I think it would be kind of interesting. But I do have to wonder, like, I wonder in this history now, what happened to cause them to go back in time. Does Lucy know about the serial killer anymore? Because it makes sense in the fact that before, Wyatt is telling Lucy, I need to go back in time to change history and save my wife by taking out the parents of my wife's killer. But now that he's come back and the history has changed and all of that is done, I don't know. Like, I wish they'd explain that a bit more, because it's kind of confusing to think about. Like, if you go back in time to change the thing, when you come back, the people that knew you were going to go back in time and change the thing, what do they know now? Like, what reason did you give to them for going back in time before? But ultimately, it leads to Wyatt's now arrested for taking the time ship without authorization. A lot of just, I don't know what's going to happen next with that. And then on top of that, we've got, throughout this entire episode, what's his name? Crap. Anthony. That's his name. So glad I remembered his name. Anthony calls, trying to get a hold of Rufus, finds out he's not available, so he talks to Lucy instead. He reveals that Rittenhouse has a plan to use the time ship to travel back in time and to form history like they want it. With all of the people who were revolutionaries and rebels who, I guess, kind of took people away from Rittenhouse. Like he said, their power over the past several years has been waning. They want to take out those revolutionaries to make it a perfect future like they want. And so he tells Lucy, I'm going to blow up the mothership. You guys have to blow up the lifeboat. And so there's an explosion. They get there. None of the mothership is there. Like, none of the debris that should be there is there. And then Agent Christopher's like, we found something else, talking to Rufus. I'm like, oh, Garcia Flynn's too smart for that. And sure enough, Anthony's dead. So Anthony's out of the picture now. They no longer have kind of an inside man, which he wasn't at first, but I feel like he could have been now that you could see he wasn't agreeing with anything that Garcia Flynn was saying. But now he's gone, he's out of the picture. Obviously the mothership is still available, and of course the lifeboat's not going anywhere anytime soon. So yeah, we're still pretty much in the same place that we were before, except Wyatt's now locked up. Don't know what's going to happen if they're going to replace him with that one guy that was going to replace him before. Um, but I'm interested to see what's going to happen next. I mean, a lot of stuff is going on right now. It feels like it feels like it could go anywhere at this point. I would like to see them go into some unexplored territory though. Like I don't know, they take the lifeboat out on their own, and all of a sudden now they're running from Rittenhouse and Connor Mason and all of them, and they're also trying to stop Garcia Flynn at the same time. I don't know. I just like to see them change up the story a little bit because right now it feels like they've got something set. You know, it's every single episode. Let's go out. Let's stop Garcia Flynn in a different time period, while also knowing Rittenhouse is in the background, kind of causing trouble. We're trying to stop them at the same time. I would love to see it change up a little bit. You know, at some point they're working with Garcia Flynn. At some point they're running from Rittenhouse. At some point, I don't know, maybe they'll start working for Rittenhouse. We do find out at the end of this episode that Lucy's father is involved in Rittenhouse, and I guess he's one of the leading members right now. He's the guy talking to Connor Mason all the time, so we'll be interested to see where that's going. It seems like he wants to try to convince her to join Rittenhouse, and somehow I don't think Lucy's going to be up for that. But it's a very interesting moment in the series right now. It's still the first season, so it feels like they could go anywhere after this. But for right now, I'm really invested. I really want to know what's going to happen next with these characters. I want to know everything that's about to happen next. It's exciting. It's a lot of fun. I mean, just traveling back to the 1980s. Some of the songs that are playing in the bar, I'm like, I know these songs because my dad loves these songs. So it's a lot of fun. I love all the things they do with it, and I hope they can continue to keep it up. So let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What did you like and dislike about this episode? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future timeless reviews, and I'll see you at the next one. Peace out.